Hi, I'm going to begin. I guess this is probably one for you, Tim. When did the idea of a spin-off kind of first come about for you?
Um, I think that over the years since Kris left the show, we kind of chatted about what would have happened to Humphrey and Martha next, and those conversations just sort of became more driving. We kind of started planning out what we thought might have happened to them, and before we knew it, we kind of went, "There's a show in this. We've got an idea for moving forward with it." So BritBox came on board and were interested, and BBC Studios and the BBC, uh, and Tony was just sort of fired up by it. And Kris obviously has always been a sort of part of the Red Planet family. And when he wasn't, he was in Sanditon as Death in Paradise. So we'd chat with him over the years as well about Humphrey and where Humphrey might be at. And it just felt very natural. It just felt like a very sort of natural proposition. And the chemistry that him and Sally have on screen felt like something we wanted to see more of as well. So before you know it, a sort of what if kind of innocent chat in the office turns into a pitch document, which turns into a pilot script, which turns into day one of the shoot, which turns into us sat here with you. It's a surreal and wonderful thing.
Yeah, because Tony, I wanted to ask about Kris, because I think he does such a fantastic job here. There's a bit in The Trip when Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon are talking about there are some actors that know something that the audience doesn't, and there are some actors that appear sometimes where it feels like the audience knows something that they don't, and he kind of has to do both in this instance. It's quite an incredible multi-layered performance for you. What does he bring to this role of Humphrey?
Kris, look, I think Kris is an astonishing actor. And I think actually what's brilliant for me about Beyond Paradise is that because of the two elements of it, which is the first element is obviously the story of the week. Humphrey, seemingly bumbling detective, but who's actually a genius. Kris has to deal with that, but he deals with that quite well because he played that role, did that for 5 years on Death in Paradise. But then the other part of the show is the proper grown-up drama, which is the story of Humphrey and Martha and their literally Beyond Paradise journey. And the very fact that he's versatile enough to deal with both of those kind of monkeys in the same thing, I think is testament to what he does. He has this unerring ability to look completely bewildered, yet completely in control in the same second. It's like even when he's at his most bewildered, like you just really think this man shouldn't be in charge of everything, you also really know that he's brilliant. And I think that what's for me the vulnerability that he shows in first of all, the performances of, I don't know how much you've seen, but Kris's performances and Sally's performances in that story of their journey as the series progresses is stunning. It's proper good. But the way that the vulnerability that you get from Kris in some of those scenes is heartbreaking. So look, I think he's just a complete package. He gives you everything. He can do a fart joke. If you've seen episode 1, he does a great fart gag. And then at the end of the episode, he deals with the miscarriage of his child. And that's the same actor. And it's like, fuck. Good.
Yeah. Fart jokes are always funny, by the way.
Of course, always.
Fine. But you mentioned about that, just in just that example, that does also illustrate the tonality of the show itself, which has always managed to be a kind of detective show at its kind of foremost. But there's moving aspects, there's quite comedic aspects. It feels like a real balancing act. Is it actually a kind of balancing act? Do you almost have to go over the scripts after they're kind of written and with a fine-tooth comb and kind of make sure that each of the kind of different elements are not undercutting the other?
Not for me. Look, the reason I love writing for the show, I genuinely love it, and I know I'm supposed to say that, and I know that's especially on press day you're supposed to say that, but I genuinely love it. The reason I love it is it's so akin to my style of writing. If you look at everything I've done, my thing, I did 200 episodes of EastEnders, and my mantra in the story room of EastEnders was, we've got 30 minutes, let's make them laugh, let's make them cry in the same 30 minutes. And if you look at my episodes within that show, that's what you get. Beyond Paradise is perfect for that, because I get the opportunity, because of the tone of it, to write the way that I enjoy writing the most. So I don't need to do those checks and balances. They're kind of already in my head. and sometimes I go too far. And in the past, people have had to pull me up, and I've got Tim that will tell me when there's a fart joke too many. Sometimes we have a long discussion about whether the duck should be called Selwyn or not. But look, we always find a happy medium. So no checks and balances for me to make sure I'm doing something, but obviously the rudder of Mr. Key to make sure that I don't go completely mad.
Yeah, because Tim, I mean, there's, this kind of the Paradise franchise. I'm going to call it that now. It's a franchise. I mean, if you look at the kind of successful kind of BBC shows that have been on in the last couple of years, Happy Valley, is Line of Duty. This is kind of in that sort of realm. But this feels quite unique. What do you think makes the Beyond the Paradise franchise? What do you think makes it unique and different to the others?
Well, when I joined Red Planet, I mean, I think that Tony is kind of known for a passion for sort of unashamedly creating and telling stories that the family will sit down and watch and enjoy, and going for a big audience as an entertainment. And within that entertainment, you can move people and you can educate people, or you can do all sorts of things. But first and foremost, the thing that I think Tony's shows all have in common is that they entertain. And I think that Death in Paradise makes no bones about the fact that it's not trying to be a gritty, hard-hitting, educational, important issue-led show. It is an entertainment. It is a drama with comedy in it. It's a parlor game. It's full of wonderful characters it's got a very warm spirit. And Red Planet feels like that when you work here, that there's a very warm spirit about it. And I think Beyond Paradise is kind of created with that template. So we spent a lot of time talking about Death in Paradise and what are the elements of it that we want to bring to Beyond Paradise. What are the things that a Death in Paradise show has to have for it to be a Death in Paradise show? But then how do we also turn all of that on its head and surprise the audience and do things that they won't have expected? And so I really do feel we've achieved that. I think that it will feel like a Death in Paradise show, but it feels like its own unique thing as well. And I think that that there is a huge need for dramas that entertain people, that people sit down, appointment to view, have fun watching, don't feel by the end of it. Much as I like dark, gritty, shocking dramas, there's a huge need for dramas that make you feel good. And Death in Paradise does that, and this show does that too, even though alongside that it will break your heart. But it does it because it is an honest and truthful show that also tells some heightened and wonderful and puzzling stories. So we're able to sort of have our cake and eat it, which is a very nice place to be, basically.
Yeah, and Tony, I was going to ask, because I always thought this about Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad, that he'd make a wonderful criminal because he comes up with the most incredible crimes and the most amazing ways his characters can avoid getting caught. I just wondered, because obviously you have to conjure up these kind of scenarios. You've got to have quite a meticulous mind in how good crimes are committed and how they can go wrong. Would you think you'd make quite a good criminal with that in mind?
How do you know I'm not? I mean, I don't know. Look, I had that when I was writing Hustle. I remember that I read 30 books on cons, and I did a year's worth of research. So I came out at the end of that. I realized if I wanted to, I didn't have to write anymore. I could just go around the world kind of conning people. I wanted to do that. And actually, this is the first time I've used that brain muscle, I think, in Beyond Paradise, is that same kind of intricate puzzle of that will grip the audience and drag them into trying to help you solve it. And they kind of do it the same way as I did then, which is create a scenario that's impossible. Don't worry about how you got there, or don't worry about how it happened. Just set it up and then go back and reverse engineer it so that you put things in the script before that moment so that it looks like you knew what you were going to do all along. And if you go back and look at Vince's stuff on Breaking Bad, you can see that writers do that they're not really as smart. We're not as smart as we like to let on. We kind of do something and think, well, that's impossible, that can never happen. But then we'll work out a way, and then we'll go back and reverse engineer it to make it look like it was a seamless plan all along. So yeah, look, maybe I could become a murderer or a crook or a con man, who knows? But I'm going to stick with writing for now.
But I was going to ask, actually, when you solve the crimes on the page, do you solve them from your own mind, or do you almost have to channel Humphrey and solve it in the way he'd managed to solve it, if that makes sense?
Bit of both. You
Yeah.
need to know obviously you need to know what the solution is. So obviously if you created a murder, and I'm writing some season 2. We haven't been greenlit yet, and we're hoping that is the case. But we're trying to get ahead of the game. But I'm writing a murder now, and I can tell you that I don't really know who the murderer is. And when I decide, I'll go back and do that reverse engineer thing and put the clues in. So I'll have that information. So now I need to work out how Humphrey would find that. So it's about getting in his head to work out what triggers would kick into place with him that will make him make those things. And if you've watched episode 1, which I think you have,
I've seen that.
Then in Humphrey's world, he's incredibly random. So in episode 1, Margo says something equally random, which is he asks her to do something, and he says, "If you stick a broom up my arse, I'll sweep up at the same time." And he's so amused by that while he's doing something else. But then it suddenly clicks that trigger, which is he makes the association of the broom that's on the tape that does the thing. So I don't want to get in his head so much, because that's a scary place to be, but you have to work out how he would find the solution, not necessarily what the solution is. I'm not sure if that was clear.
No, it was great.
I knew what I meant.
Yeah, and just my final question was going to be about whether you might guys be contemplating a season 2, but it sounds like you've already answered that one. So, yeah.
I mean, look, we're buzzing with ideas for this show. We think it's an amazing show. So we'll keep making it for as long as people want it.
Cool, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated. Best of luck with the release of the show, and maybe we'll catch up for the next season. Who knows?
Yeah, hope so. Cheers, Stefan. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.